Good evening. I'm Dr. Greenbrier Almond, and thank you for joining us on our program, Tender Loving Care. Each week on Channel 3, I'm happy to talk about this interface between Christianity and medicine. And never is that interface more apparent than in raising children. We need to have a plan to help our children have roots and at the same time give our children wings. Isn't that a wonderful idea? And of course in Buchanan we have roots, don't we? We have a community based on faith. We have a lot of churches. We have a lot of civic groups. We have many patriots who live among us who have been willing to give their life in battle. We have veteran population over 2,000. It's a wonderful place for roots, and that helps our children grow strong. We also want to give our children wings. We want them to be able to grow up, feel competent, cultured, feel like they can go out and tackle the world, handle stress, and do well in life. And in springtime, at least once a year, I want to talk about that topic. And so I'm very happy to do that tonight as we look forward to the Strawberry Festival and many activities for children at the end of school year. We probably have less than 30 days left in school, and we'll have summer. And as a member of the Upshur County Board of Education, I'm excited about everything that's happening in our school system for our children. But I want to talk parent to parent about some of the things that we can do to raise strong, healthy, resilient children. And I'm going to divide it into some C's. This is just a way, an alliteration, just a way to make sense of this. And I want to, as you look at this and think about what I'm saying tonight, turn to healthychildren.org sometime, healthychildren.org. On your computer, you'll get more information than I can give tonight about raising healthy children. This is a site sponsored by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the doctors who specialize in children. I've been privileged for almost 37 years to be married to a pediatrician. So through my dear wife, Araceli, also known, of course, professionally as Dr. Gannon, I've learned a lot about resiliency and raising children who are healthy and what she teaches her patients. So this alliteration, let's look at the 7 C's of raising children. And this is along the line of children needing connection, unconditional love, and connection. If you think about it, what can we give to our children? And our program's name is Tender Loving Care. This has been a constant theme of ours. The unconditional love, the love that doesn't mean that when the child does good, they're loved, and when they do bad, they're shunned somehow, but rather they're loved. God loves us in that way. The sun is shining, it's springtime, we can feel God's love all around us. That's unconditional love. Sometimes there are things that we do that as a parent, we teach the child the right way, and the child doesn't always get their way. On the school board, we have many hearings, more hearings than I've expected. It's a privilege, of course, to serve on the board and to do whatever we can to help our kids and families do well. But sometimes children act out, get into trouble. It could be drugs, it could be acting out on a school bus, any number of things like that. Not trying to identify any one student or any one family. But children cannot always get their own way, can they? They need to learn the right way. Character development. I'm very happy that in the past year, the Union School was recognized as a National School of Character. First time in West Virginia that's happened, and very rare event, of course, across America. And it happened right here in Upshur County, at least on the school board watch. So we're going to talk more about that, helping children develop character. Children are either going to live up or live down to our expectations. And of course, we want children to live up. There's a joke, I've heard this several times, and it's made me laugh each time, but at a wedding, commonly at a wedding, the phrase will be like, oh, that lady married up, or the man married up, meaning, of course, that they have a wife or a spouse that exceeds the family's expectations. And children are like that. They're either going to act up to the point that they meet our expectations or exceed them, or they may feel so frustrated they act down. Unfortunately, and I'll use this as an example with war veterans who have PTSD, I see this more often than I like. I tell the veteran and his wife, and I say, your child is either going to, because you're a disabled American veteran now, you've served your country, and the way you treat the children, they're either going to be very compassionate, kind and open people, or they're going to turn out to act out a lot and cause a lot of problems, maybe drugs or alcohol. A parent has a choice. So that's the idea of acting up or playing down their actions and doing bad stuff. We'll talk about that. Children need someone to listen to them attentively. This applies to routine situations as well as crisis. We as a community are remembering Professor Priester, who just passed away, and he was such a great man. But I remember Craig telling us on this program one time, as we talked about our families and how we were reared, that the act of coming together as a family for supper meant that he, and I could say the same thing, never actually got a lecture from our dads, but we learned how to act. We learned what is right, what is wrong, and how to behave ourselves based on what we heard around the family table. That meal was so important to the development. And children can be listened to at that time. You know, literally saying to each child at a table, how did school go today? How are you getting along with your friends? What's happening in your life? You know, and listening to the child, not in a crisis time, but just in a friendly time, day by day. 15 minutes of powwow. I always like the word powwow because I like to play Indians, cowboys and Indians when I was a child, but just a powwow with the family. It makes a lot of sense. And nothing a parent can say is as important as what children see them doing on a daily basis. In other words, if you're eating right, if you're getting your rest as a parent, if you're exercising every day, keep your body healthy, doing preventive medicine, the child sees that and the child will copy you. I've run over the years. Many people know that. I've enjoyed that. It's a burst of freedom for me as I stick to a schedule most of the day and into the evening many times. But that hour of running is a precious free time. Well, lo and behold, and I never gave a lecture to my children, they both like to run. Isn't that tremendous? They found that whatever they saw me enjoying, they liked that, and they followed my lead. Nothing I ever said to them about that. And if children develop strength to overcome challenge, they need to know that they can control what happens. No matter what happens, there's a way to be in control. And when we cannot be in control, we talk about roots and wings. We have roots in our faith, and God is in control. God owns it all. We talk about that a lot in an economy like this. None of us are happy that our economy is down in the doldrums and things are slow and it looks like it's prolonged. But nevertheless, you know, we know that God owns it all. He's the creator. He made this world. He's in charge. And when we can't control things, we still can say that God is in control. And finally, one more introductory point is children have a wide range of positive coping strategies, and to overcome stress, they need to see their parents dealing with stress. So let's get into these, and we won't have time in a program like this, but I hope you go to healthychildren.org, healthychildren.org on your computer. And if you don't have a computer, of course, you can go to the library and you can look it up there. It'll take you to a website. It's sponsored by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the doctors who specialize in children. And I'm going to talk a little bit about resiliency. The first one I want to emphasize tonight, and I can't talk about all seven, but is confidence. My mother, on her deathbed, said to me three things, and one of them was encourage Ronce. And now at that particular time, she could have said Ronce and Maria, or she could have said encourage children. She named my son, and that's how I remember that. But I've broadened that and said it's important to encourage children. In other words, to instill confidence in children. And it makes the list of having healthy children. So let's talk a little bit about how do we do that as parents. And if you're watching as a child, then you can help your parents, and they can learn to be better parents if you live up to the highest degree of expectation that you have. For example, instilling confidence, building confidence. Do I see the best in my child so that he can see the best in himself? It's good to see something good in each of us every day. I like to do that. And we're not talking about whether the hair is red or whether the person's 6'6" or something like that. Those are traits that, of course, are God-given traits. We have things like that. Those are not traits of character, if you will. But if you see a child picking up their room, making the bed in the morning, say, this is wonderful what you're doing, keeping your room neat, so we don't live in a pig pen, or however you want to say that. But the child will get the message in your voice that you are expecting the best of your child and you're encouraging the best. I like the 4-H motto, to make the best better. A tremendous thought, isn't it? To make the best better. We can encourage our children to be the best. Do I clearly express what I expect, qualities of my child? Not necessarily achievements, but qualities of, for example, such as fairness, integrity, persistence, and kindness. Again, come back to our program of tender, loving care, of kindness. It's something that it was instilled into me. But fairness is something I've always tried to instill. And now I have a son who's a lawyer. And the symbol of the law is that lady with the blindfold on, and she's measuring something, blind justice, and measuring what is fair, two scales that are in balance. It's a symbol of fairness. Very important that children learn that. And in step families and blended families, it's hard to be fair, but it's an important trait. You want to teach that to your child if you want them to be confident people. And I'm hoping that that's what all of us want for our children. Do we recognize that a child, when a child is doing right or doing well? And again, maybe children don't wait for the report card to come out and reward them for A's on the report card, though that can be done. That's important. But every day there's a paper that the child will bring home, and you can see that there's an A on that paper, or you can just ask the child, how's it doing? And a pat on the back. It goes a long way to encouraging a child, making them have confidence. Dr. Huffman, who's passed away, is my father, but he practiced medicine here for a number of years. And one time we were having a discussion at a doctor's meeting about hormone shots for women. And he was, the doctor's a little crude, and I won't be as crude as he was in his comment, but I want you to get the gist of it. But the discussion was, when women go through menopause or they need help with their nerves, how can we help them? And he said, what women need is a pat on the back and not a shot in the arm, though he didn't say arm. But in other words, we can't treat everything with medicine, but we want to treat it with a pat on the back or an encouragement when people are doing well and doing what's right. I mentioned too that children learn to live up or down to adults' expectations of them. We get that choice, don't we, as parents, to encourage our children to live up. And we can do that in different ways. Each child has a talent. I was with a child today that's very, very good musically. And obviously that's known to the parents, and they bring it up to me, so they're encouraging the child in that way. Likewise, the child may be struggling in other ways, in math or in another way. See, we have two sides to our brain. The musical brain, we might say, is on the right side. The analytic math brain is on the left side. And why should we only reward math greatness or prowess or ability? Why not encourage people in the talent they have, for example, in music? And that's just as valid. there are probably, if you want to think about it in terms of genius, there are probably at least 7 different ways that we can be genius. It's not just IQ, it's many other things like that. And nothing a parent says is as important as what the child sees them doing on a daily basis. We can emphasize that again. There's a lot that to be said about that type of copying that children do. Do I encourage him to strive just a little bit further because I believe he can succeed? Or do I hold realistically, or do I hold unrealistically high expectations? Everything is by step, isn't it? And you want to instill confidence, you want the child to take the next step. Commonly, and I did this 3 times today, I interviewed new children, came into my practice, and with the mother, was at the side with the child, and one of the questions I always ask is, how about the milestones? How did they do on their milestones? And parents know that. The mothers will remember that. When did the child raise their head up while they're lying down? When did they roll over? When did they sit up? When did they take their first step? When did they speak their first word? When did they walk? When did they run? When did they ride a bicycle? All these milestones we go through. These are obviously step by step. A child isn't born and then the next day is riding a bicycle. I mean, that would be unrealistically, and a child would need to be encouraged. I remember it was a very hard lesson for us. Our daughter was 1 year older than our son, and Ronce, bless his heart, could not grasp the idea that he was not the same age and ability as Maria. For example, if she could jump on 1 foot and she's a year older, then that's okay developmentally for her. She can do that. Ronce was not quite there yet. He might be clumsy, couldn't bounce on 1 foot very well, very long. And it shouldn't be judged that way. But he himself had expectations that he would do everything that Maria did at the time that Maria did it. And that was hard for him to understand, and we had to keep slowing him down and encouraging him to take it 1 step at a time. When I need to criticize or correct a child, this is as a parent we speak, do I focus only on what he's doing wrong, or do I remind him that he is capable of doing well? How do we give that message when something needs to be corrected? I think the best way to say that is I love you as a person, I love you unconditionally, you're the most wonderful child in the world, what a blessing. And then, but, you know, please pick up your towel when you take a bath, or whatever the correction is. You can make up your correction. But make it so the child is very encouraged, and of course they'll follow your lead in that regard. It's how you give that message. Focus on what the child's capable of doing, and don't put them down. And of course, avoid a sense of shame in children. The children actually don't, I mean, many times they're not aware of what they're doing that may cause shame until they see the reaction of their parents. They're not intentional that way. For example, wetting the bed or whatever else they may do that could be shameful, or a parent might judge as shameful. A child is not likely to see that. Let me pick one other thing if I have time for that, and then obviously I'm not going to tackle 7 of these, but I want you to go get the message out, healthychildren.org. It's a site you can go to. You want your child to be resilient and grow strong and healthy. This is the time of the year when we start to measure how children have done throughout the school year, and do rewards and assemblies in school, and children, of course, are ready for summer in about 30 days or so, and they're ready for a high adventure. But we want our children to grow up with roots and wings. So let's look at character. Character is, of course, knowing what is right or wrong. I have a definition. I had it on my mirror for a long time. I cut it out, wrote it down, and pasted it on the mirror so I would see that. And character is what you do when no one else is looking. And that's a part of your character. I'll give a personal example. which I didn't do certainly to get anyone's attention, but I'm happy I did it. I was instilled in me by my parents to be patriotic, and so there was we were coming down Main Street driving one day, probably coming back from the VA, but anyway we were driving, and there was a horrible downpour of rain. I mean, it just buckets, you know, cats and dogs. It was raining, and we at that particular time we had flags up and down Main Street on display. And perhaps because of the wind or the rain or something, a flag had fallen out of its little stand where it was supposed to stay and you know, be up in the air, and it had fallen down into the water and into the drain at the side of the road. And I thought, well, that's disrespectful. I didn't think twice about it. It was a red light. I got out of the car in the rain. It got a little wet, but put the flag up, got back in the car. The light changed, and drove home. And I wasn't doing that for anyone else to see, but apparently several people saw that, and they came up to me afterwards and thanked me for doing that, and so I felt good about it. But that was a measure, at least in my life, of character or my respect for our flag and our country. So doing things like that, having a sense of right or wrong, is what we're talking about. And so there's several steps we can do as parents. First is, do I help my child understand how his behaviors affect other people in good and bad ways? Everything we do is going to affect other people, isn't it? And children need to know that. It's okay as a mother or father to say, what you have done makes me feel sad. You know, that's not shame, but you're teaching them about how it makes you feel. And you can say, I want to feel happy about you, I want to feel joy, and teach them that too. Am I helping my child recognize himself as a caring person? We were always taught in our home to share, caring and sharing. I mean, they go together, in my mind, and that was instilled from the beginning. And of course, having a father who's a doctor, I knew that he cared for his patients, and he gave a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of life energy for his patients. He cared. To allow the child to clarify his own values. In many cases, children's values, not the biggest values about lying or cheating or murder or things like that, but a lot of values change culturally. I mean, electronically, I was never tempted, I suppose, to spend 2 hours a day on a screen watching a TV or a computer. I mean, it wasn't available to me when I was growing up. But we have to put limits on that now with children and say 2 hours of screen time a day or less, and encourage children to have more green time, to be outside and in the open. So values change, and you can encourage children to set their own values. For example, if we're talking about screen time, okay, 2 hours of screen time, that's the limit. Now, the child can choose how much of it is with the computer, how much of it is with the TV. It's not 2 plus 2, it's not 4 hours altogether, 2 hours of TV and 2 hours of computer. The limit is 2 hours. Set the limit, and then the child can clarify how they're going to do that 2 hours. Do I allow him to consider right versus wrong and look beyond immediate satisfaction or selfish needs? There are ways to teach children to plan ahead. There's the cookie test. And I like to do this with children. And whether I have a cookie in the office, I pretend with the child that I have a cookie. Maybe I have a pencil or something there. But I say, okay, I have 2 cookies here, and if you want to eat the cookie right now, you can have 1 cookie. But if you can wait 15 minutes and not eat that cookie, in 15 minutes, only 15 minutes, then you can have 2 cookies, okay, or 2 pencils, or whatever it is that I may have there, object lesson to teach. Cookies are fine if it's not supper time or something like that, and so the children that can learn that value of patience, of waiting, even 15 minutes, That translates. These studies have been done by pediatricians. You can go to healthychildren.org and learn about this. But this has been studied clear into college. Children who learn that lesson about the 2 cookies and waiting patiently actually go to college at a much higher rate than children who didn't learn that lesson and want immediate gratification. They want that 1 cookie right now. They don't care about the 2 cookies in 15 minutes. Those children, if they don't learn that 2 cookie lesson, will actually not go to college and not go as high in life professionally. That's a lesson that we can teach to our children. It's a character lesson. Another point or two to make here. Do I demonstrate the importance of community? We're going to have, we have several things here in our community going on, don't we? And my first lessons of community were around the Strawberry Festival. Even as probably first grade, but I'm not sure exactly, maybe second grade, I was dressed up in a little white outfit and stood behind or beside a princess for coronation, and then I rode on a float and wore my little white outfit and so forth, and I became a part of the community of the Strawberry Festival. Later on as a Boy Scout, we didn't have the email and all the computer things, so Boy Scouts were runners. We would carry messages from one part of town to another, helping the organization of the Strawberry Festival go forward. So I became a part of the community as a volunteer, as a Boy Scout. Later on as a band member, we played in the parades and marched, and that was part of a community. Many ways we can teach community. That's part of teaching character. I'm going to finish on a sense of spirituality. Do we want the child to have a sense of spirituality, a sense of awe? You can teach that in a rainbow, a sunset, a starry night. You can teach that, of course, in church, in a hymn, in a sermon, in the Bible itself. Many ways to teach spirituality, and we want to teach children that we're more than just body or mind, that we're also spirit. That's part of character development. Well, until the next time, this is Dr. Greenbrier-Ahlmann thanking you for joining us on our program, Tender Loving Care. Special thanks to Channel 3 for this opportunity to come your way each week. And looking forward to more talks like this for the next 2 weeks as we get ready for an election. We're going to be getting some civic lessons from some very patriotic people of the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign War, as we talk about the importance of voting and citizenship. So we hope to see you next week.